guys, welcome back to our Q&A. It's week number 12, and today we're going to be going over Season 4, Episode 9.
A new dynamic.
And I'm Amy.
And I'm congested. So, yeah. Sorry if you don't like the sounding of someone's voice is sick. Sorry. All right, this video is going to be filled full of spoilers for Episode 1, Season 1, all the way through current Season 4, Episode 9, with all the mini episodes and ice episodes in between. So if you're not caught up on Siren Aside, I don't know why you're watching this.
Leave.
We got a lot of questions this week, so we're
Yes.
going to try to do a rapid-fire style to them. So if you feel like you didn't get the exact depth of the answer you're looking for, feel free to comment below, and we'll cover it in next week's Q&A.
Our first question comes from Alberto DeJesus. Fucking loved that episode. The attack helicopter arriving with the music playing in the background, the pilot banging his head and hands falling into his death. This is true horror audio drama is. Can't get enough of it. Who's the voice of Doc? Legit. That felt like a fight promo.
Yeah.
The fight of the ages. You guys need flyers for upcoming battles. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. A lot of hard work went into this episode. This was our second episode produced by Duncan McPherson, and he did an amazing job on it. He's been, I know I don't sound enthusiastic, but I am. I cannot thank you enough, Duncan, for what you've done for our show this season. That was Ryan Wendt. Ryan Wendt is like a power lifter.
Yeah.
He's a gym owner. So whenever Axel gets taken earlier in the season, it's very to home. I sat down and talked to him a lot, and then character studied him and asked him what his favorite wrestlers were, what his favorite MMA fighters, and Axel Hedwig. If you study Connor Weiss, all these names, they're actually Ryan Wendt's loose fandom on his style of wrestlers and stuff like that. So that was cool. But yeah, he's doing the voice of New Doc, and man, is he good at it. He's just very sinister. And
next question from Rose. Theobald wasn't very happy with Vima at first, was he?
No, not at all. I think that I think Doc knew this stuff and just didn't tell Theobald.
Yeah, it seems like a very Doc move.
And I'm sure Theobald has been working, because Theobald works for Doc, but I'm sure he'd been working in circles of his kind to find out who destroyed the Revenant Mirror. It's just crazy. The Omni Test, the Revenant Mirror, all these vampire stem lines, and Vima just takes out one completely.
Out of anger.
And I mean, true-born children, progenies that were sired, everybody on that line just gone. So that was definitely a huge test of their relationship.
Yeah.
But it also shows how loyal Theobald is to Doc in that moment, not just to end her. So he's more loyal to Doc and Doc's crusade than he is his own kind.
And that's what she points out to
exactly.
him. She says it.
She sees it. Yeah.
And another one from Alberto DeJesus. Being sired into a vampire kind of feels outside the scope of Doc's plan. And what kind of reactions can we expect, and what kind of consequences will it carry?
Well, I don't think Doc's going to be happy because, we've been hinting this whole season at, there might be another wave at Theobald Sam, and he's really not sure about doing it. And Vima knows more than anyone after working into these acolytes to make them these synth havoc units and chaos units and things like that, and these synth assassins, that she knows that how much vampire blood is made up of their structure. So he doesn't see them as, I think Theobald said it, has not seen them more than just an ingredient or cannon fodder. They're nothing to him. He has no respect for vampire kind. So yeah, siring somebody into one is probably not a good idea around Doc. He just doesn't seem to like vampires.
Well, I think it boils down to more than that, because everyone that he has scarred and he's done that to, he has a connection to. And if she doesn't, the reason why he wants her to take the scarring or the essence transfer, something that he can do, means he has more control over her.
That's true.
If she takes the vampire out, then Theobald has more control over her and not him.
Right. Very true. Like the slowest airplane in history.
And on the same note from Alberto, also been thinking on Vima's gift. How does the gift come to be to those who are sired, and who/what has notable gifts of the past?
Okay, so the anomaly gift is not just given to luminescent beings. So, a vampire, like in a lot of lore, and like Anne Rice calls it the dark gift, and everybody's got something. But our vampires definitely do have abilities, and those who are natural born vampires are stronger with these gifts, like Theobald's ability to just scope through scary, find exactly what he needs, locate it, and pull it out without having some kind of Johnny anomaly power. Like, he's got it. That's part of his gift. Now, a lot of vampires can necromance. It's a very common ability, but Theobald's is like on another level. As far as notable other vampire gifts, we really have not touched a whole lot on vampire lore within this show, because it's not, the show is about Joey and Eddie Vile. This is the Matthew Finnish Joey dynamic versus the Eddie Vile story. It takes place in the Siren Aside world, which has this overarching werewolves and all that. But there's not a whole lot of depth in the show, but I can tell you from outside and going forward into Hearing the Haunted, which is Hearing the Haunted's logo with the Siren Aside name underneath it, but that there'll be more touched on like vampire lore from our side of things.
Yeah.
But they do have dark gifts. I would say that not all vampires are beautiful persuaders and stuff like that. So I could kind of see like Rima was a seductress. Like, I think that her vampire gift was just very easy to just, tempt people and those kind of things, like a temptress kind of thing. So, but what other gifts she had, we don't really know. We didn't get to meet her that much. And
he talks about Theobald talks about Thalia, his sister, and with the soul fire.
Yep. Yeah. So her gift was to be able to control, the soul fire through the augment. So that's a pretty powerful vampire there. So I wonder who their parents were.
I know, right?
Good question.
Kind of switching from vampires, Don Watkins asks, is Johnny Amali really going to bail on Sirenicide, or is he just going to monitor them from far, and if they need him, he can come back?
I think Rose asked a similar question too.
Yes, there are a couple of similar ones.
So I'm just going to go ahead and throw this out. No, they're not. They're not coming back. This is not some Glenn under a dumpster, like Walking Dead thing. This is not a fake out. They're gone. The death of Johnny wasn't technically a fake out because he did die. He was brought back as a resurgent, so we did kill him off. But they're not just going to turn around and go. I think at this point, Johnny is well stated in the episode and in previous episodes. He's more worried about losing Molly than he is about this war. It's very selfish, and he knows that with that state of mind, he can't lead these people.
Yeah.
He's not who he was 50 years ago. He's more what he was 100 years ago at this point now. He's a whole lot more diving back into John Collins' mindset than he is this, I'll take on Doc. He's not willing to risk what he's worked his whole life to find over this war, which is not good. That's not the kind of leader you want. And he knows that. And I think that's why in the beginning of the episode, he's so, you got to train harder, pushing Joey, because he knows Joey's got the resolve, and he's gone through so much to ascend to that kind of position. And he trusts him more than anyone in Sirenicide to be able to pull off it if he can.
We'll see.
And if he doesn't, then it's Johnny's fault.
Dawn also asks, it seems like Molly is torn between her duty and loyalty to Sirenicide and what they stand for, and then also embracing Johnny's new journey and going with him, like she's torn between two worlds. I would say she definitely is.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, she's just now revisiting and figuring out all this Molly Collins, all these different lives she lived between that life and Margaret Sharp, and all that's new to her, and her feelings tell her that's true, and that this man, that there is a cosmic love between these two people. But her grounded reality has been on since 2000, 19 years. She's been on the floor of Sirenicide, defending it, fighting it, hiding it, covering up for it, keeping it operating, being one of its top lieutenants, and now she's just being asked to give all that up.
Yeah.
To go with the leader of it, who just has completely done. I mean, I don't think he feels like they can't win. Like, when we get out of here, this is hopeless. I think he feels like, if we don't win, you're dead, and I can't do that. We can go to a place where they can't get us.
Yeah.
Why the hell are we staying here? I don't care about this world. Let them have it. That kind of thing.
And I think she loves Johnny. And she's, like you said, figuring out those feelings. But at the same time, she loves Joey and Emmett. And really Joey, I mean, we had the whole episode of her training him and getting him and teaching him how to be a resurgent and get back on his feet and stuff. So she spent a lot of time with these people.
And it's, in her defense, she tells him no the first time he asks this. When he wakes up, it's like, let's go. And she's like, I'm not leaving. Are you crazy? And then he's like, fine, we'll finish the war and then we'll go. But in this episode, she realizes why he feels the way he feels, because he's like, it's time to go. And she's like, yeah. She realizes that as much as he threw Doc into that chopper and freaking flung Hans to his death, that he was stalling. Because, I mean, even later in the episode, she has to basically say if he was coming back, he would be back by now.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, he's worried about Doc. Not just Doc, but all of Doc's forces. Johnny knows. I think Johnny thinks deep down he can kill Doc. And I think deep down Johnny could kill Doc. But I think it's not like cutting the head off of a snake. I think he realizes that if he kills Doc, all these monsters aren't just going to go away. And now they're all going to have some martyr reason to come after Siren Aside. So almost keeping Doc alive and running from him is safer for him and Molly than it would be to just end him.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not canon or anything. That's just what I think.
And Brandon asks, does Johnny think that he and Molly may not ever come back from saving the souls from the Nexus?
I think that's a very good question. Like, I mean, he says he's got to make this right. And I think, talking about what we just talked about, if he's going to die for something or they're going to sacrifice something, it would be righting the wrong that started it all to begin with versus saving people from some peeler plague and some robot monsters that they should have never even known existed. They should have never even been in that timeline. So, yeah, I mean, I'm in. If they go there and they save that town and they fix it, I mean, yeah, I could see them coming back. They're not going to. I'm just so people don't think there's going to be some ex machina situation of them swinging in at the end and like chopping Doc's head off or something. It's Joey Trauma, Eddie Vile story. I reiterate that a lot because those are my two. That's my protagonist and my antagonist of this tale. And Johnny and Doc and Molly, they're all cool characters, but they're supporting characters.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of swooping in, Rose asks, is this just a scheme that Johnny and Molly came up with, making everyone believe they left? They're going to swoop in and save Joey, right? Just like Daryl and Merle did in the prison with Rick. LOL.
See, and that's the thing. Culture has trained us to like, this has got to be where they're going with it. I don't think Joey needs saving.
I don't think so
I have
either.
a lot of confidence in Joey. He killed a freaking hive sentinel with a scalpel. And it wasn't the scalpel that did it. It's this untapped power flowing through him that Johnny can sense. Sorry. So, yeah, that's not going to happen. As cool as that would be. I just think it'd be too telegraphed at that point. I knew they were going to come back and save him.
Yeah.
No, he's got a lot of work to do. I will say this coming week's episode is a standalone story, and Johnny's in it.
So, yeah. You still get to hear
you
him.
you get to hear Johnny again. I think that's technically Johnny's last episode, even though it's a flashback.
Yeah.
So
Another one from Rose. When are Johnny and Eddie going to see each other again? I can't wait for that.
all right, so this is the hard question. I knew this one was going to be coming. They're not. That was supposed. I mean, in Eddie's mind, he killed his master, and that was the arc I had always envisioned for those two. This was some sick, fucking rapist man that Johnny found and gave power to, gave too much power to, trained to, and was setting him up to basically be a partner in Sirenicide. And then this guy turns into a monster, be that of his own will or be that of him being forced to turn into one. I can't say, but I can say that Matthew Finnis and the Ambulance Man is where this all began.
Yep.
And that's where this will all end. So, again, that's master and apprentice, and the master in this scenario is just he's a background character. I mean, he's a supporting character. He's not a background character. He's a supporting character. But it'd be very easy for me to take that guy and just pour like the whole story into him. But that's selfish. And I like Johnny, but I think we've heard Johnny's story at this point.
Yes.
You know, there's not much else he can tell. But we haven't heard all of Joey's story.
No, not at all.
Or Eddie's.
Brandon asks, how will the rest of Sirenicide react to Joey leading the faction now?
That's another good question, because I you can tell that Marcella and a lot of the other council people are like on board with him. Obviously Emmett is very on board with him, but yeah, that's going to be interesting to see where that goes, and we will cover some of that in the future episodes, so I don't want to spoil too much, but it's not a super light switch effect right off the bat, and I think a lot of it's got to do more with the friends they have made with like Trinity and things like that, than the inner workings of Sirenicide.
Well, I mean, I think it would go over pretty well because, I mean, based off of what we've heard so far, who else is going to take that? Who else has the experience or the power?
That's true.
Or
Waylon's gone, Jimmy's gone,
Yep.
Reggie's gone, Danny wouldn't have done it anyway.
Nancy's gone.
Nancy's gone.
Eddie's gone.
Eddie's gone. So, I mean, you start really narrowing it down. But, I mean, it's easy for us to see from Johnny's perspective in his close circle. But, I mean, there's a lot of other characters in Sirenicide that we have never met that work way up there. So, Marcella being one of the ones that we didn't hear about till later in season 3. But there's a lot of people that make Sirenicide go round. Woo! Like a siren.
Another one from Brandon. How come Doc doesn't have his Vault Guardians get scarred? Does he like having them expendable?
Hans is scarred. Hans is most definitely scarred. Hans is pre-World War II German. I haven't really gone into his backstory that much. I think they say that he's over 90 years. He's been serving Doc, so he's probably in his 20s or 30s when Doc found him. Hans is... I'm not done with this guy yet. Like, as far as backstory, I really have a lot of... I mean, for us to bring him back, and I don't want to be redundant because I talked about this a little bit, I think, in the last week's Q&A. Upon an altar. But, Hans is not just some sniveling little shit like Theobald calls him. This guy was brought from Europe to take Curtis Waxman's place over Curtis Waxman's failure. So I see Hans as one of his elite hive guardians from over there. But no, he was scarred. But he wasn't boiled. He wasn't acolyte scarred. The guardians they have their individuality. They don't lose that. So, but he's just jello now. So he's just jello now. So.
And Brandon continues to ask, what's the relationship between Vaz and Doc?
I think Doc knows of Vaz. I think Doc knows of Vaz. I think Vaz knows of Doc. I think Doc knows of Vaz. I think Vaz knows of Doc. I think Vaz knows of Doc. I think Vaz knows of Vaz. 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 I think Vaz knows doesn't know her per se. I think like Emmett probably has a way more connection with Vaz. I think Theobald would have a way like. I feel like Theobald, the vampires that go between someone like Vaz and Doc.
But is it with Vaz or is it with Death? Like, since Vaz is always on the run and scary.
I feel like, I'm not going to say I feel like, I mean, I'll canonize. Vaz is a whole lot more connected to Earth/Midland realm than Death is. Death has just become basically an entity of that realm at this point. He is so far above the political workings of our realm, he could care less. All he does is feed on the massive amounts of painful death that come into his realm and keep those moving. And this entity, Vaz, works against him because I think she has said before, I don't want to go into too much because we're going to get a lot more of this, but she's basically, the Queen of Bones, and we'll find out more what that means, but she's connected more to the matter of us and who we are. All right, Brandon also asked, so are we going to hear more about the Revenant Mirror? We'll see. I can't remember because it all kind of starts meshing together for me, the whole story.
Yeah.
So I get too scared to
say too much.
Just to say too much. But the stem lines and the vampire threat is the catalyst for a lot of things to come.
Yes. So stay tuned.
Yeah. This is not the end of the vampire stories in this universe at all. Not even close.
And our last question comes from Larry Kinney. Most important question from a soundtrack/piano guy. Who plays the solo near the end?
That is my son, Reiner.
Mm-hmm.
He has been the mass composer pretty much for this season.
Yes.
We've had a couple done by me, a few done by Hannah Philibert, also known as Zoe Emery, if you're looking up her music. And but Reiner has been
he's probably done over half of it.
Yeah, I think Joe did one episode. Yeah, I'd say Reiner's done at least half. And they've just gotten better and better as they went. I mean, he started these when he was 11, had his birthday in the midst of it. So, I mean, 11 to 12-year-old has composed most of what you're hearing toward the end of the season. Very synth, very emotional music. It's really, really good.
It's really funny when he'll be writing it because he'll come out and he'll be like, what does this word mean? How do I make this emotion?
Yeah. What are you trying to say in this scene? Because the scene's supposed to reflect. I tell him, make sure you read the scene before you write the music. And when we start releasing more soundtrack stuff for this later on, like you'll realize that each of the songs for our show, most of them have like a title from one of the words within the scene the music's in.
Mm-hmm.
So like in the episode where Reggie and Danny were in the truck at the very beginning, the music that was playing, that was called Get the Shotgun. And he named that one and he wrote that one. That's when, Get the Shotgun. And that's why he called it that. So it was all on him. But yeah, that's Reiner. All right, so that's all the time we have for questions today. Mm-hmm. If you want to get your question on one of our Q&A videos, and it doesn't necessarily have to be about the episode this week other than Reiner's question. Well, I mean, it's still episode related. Most of the questions were about storyline and spoiler. If you do want to ask a question in the future that doesn't have to do with the stories, we'll try to put the spoiler-free questions ahead of that. You can get your questions prioritized by becoming a patron. Your monthly support goes a long ways. Just $1 keeps the show alive and keeps it going, keeps our writers writing and our producers producing. So we really appreciate any money that you can contribute through our Patreon page. Other than that, hope you guys have enjoyed what we have here. If you want to leave a question in the comments on this video or any of our social feeds, we will try to make sure that we get those into the video next week. Bye. All elements of Siren Aside are copyright 2019 by Atrium Dynamics.